Her knees hit the frozen ground. 21 years old, and Clara May Holden knelt in the snow while her own blood haggled over her price, like she was livestock with a limp. "Throw in the girl," her uncle slurred, "and I'll forget you owe me for that fence." The rancher's gray eyes found hers. She waited for disgust, for refusal, for the word that would send her back to hell. Instead, he took off his coat and draped it over her trembling shoulders. "Get up," he said quietly. "You ain't kneeling to nobody, not anymore." This is Clara's story. Stay until the end and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far her journey travels. The wind cut through Clara May Holden like a blade made of ice. She stood in the yard of her uncle's failing ranch, her thin cotton dress doing nothing against the Wyoming winter. Her feet were bare. Ezra hadn't let her grab her boots when he'd dragged her out of the cabin an hour before dawn. "Stand up straight." Ezra snapped, his breath fogging in the cold air. "You look like a beaten dog." Clara straightened her spine. She'd learned years ago that showing pain only made him hit harder. "That's better." Ezra took a long pull from his flask. "Man's coming today. Samuel Garrett. You know him." "The horse breeder." Clara kept her voice flat. "Lives alone up past Miller's Creek." "That's right. His wife and boy died in a fire 6 years back. Been a hermit ever since." Ezra wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "He's got a stallion I want. Gray devil called Storm. Worth more than this whole damn ranch." Clara said nothing. She'd learned that too. "Problem is, I ain't got nothing he wants." Ezra's eyes slid to her, and something cold settled in Clara's stomach. "Nothing except you." The words hit her like a physical blow. "Uncle Ezra." "Shut your mouth." He stepped closer, and Clara flinched before she could stop herself. "You're 21 years old. Been eating my food, sleeping under my roof for 7 years. You owe me. This is how you pay." "You can't." His hand cracked across her face. Clara stumbled, tasting blood where her teeth had cut the inside of her cheek. "I can do whatever I want." Ezra's voice was eerily calm. "You're my property, girl. Your daddy left you to me, and I'll do with you as I see fit." Clara pressed her hand to her burning cheek. "Please, I'll work harder. I'll do anything else." "You'll do this." Ezra grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. "And you'll smile while you do it. Understand?" Before Clara could answer, the sound of hooves reached them. A rider was approaching through the morning mist, leading a second horse behind him. Ezra released her chin and stepped back, his demeanor shifting instantly to something resembling friendliness. "Garrett, good to see you." The man who rode into the yard was tall and broad-shouldered, sitting his horse with the easy confidence of someone who'd spent his life in the saddle. His hair was dark, shot through with gray at the temples, and even from a distance, Clara could see the scar that ran along his neck and disappeared beneath his collar. He didn't smile at Ezra's greeting, didn't even nod, just dismounted in one fluid motion and tied both horses to the fence post. "Holden." His voice was low and rough like gravel under wagon wheels. "Let's get this done. Storm don't like being away from home." The stallion he'd brought was magnificent. Pale gray, almost silver in the weak winter light, with intelligent eyes and powerful muscles that rippled beneath his coat. Clara had never seen a more beautiful animal. "Fine horse," Ezra said, circling Storm with poorly concealed greed. "Fine horse indeed. He'll make a good stud. He'll make a good anything." Samuel Garrett's gray eyes swept the yard, taking in the broken fences, the sagging barn, the general air of neglect. "Question is, what you got that's worth him?" "Well, now that's the thing." Ezra rubbed his hands together. "I've been thinking about that. And I got a proposition for you." "I'm listening." "You're out there alone, ain't you, big ranch, no help. Must get lonely." Ezra gestured toward Clara without looking at her. My niece here, she's a hard worker. Good cook. Knows her way around a farm. She could help you out. Keep the place running." Samuel's gaze shifted to Clara. She felt it like heat, like pressure, though his expression gave nothing away. "You're offering me your niece," he said slowly, "for my horse. Think of it as a trade." Ezra's smile was all teeth. "You get help around the ranch, I get Storm. Everybody wins." The silence stretched. Clara's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Samuel walked toward her. His boots crunched in the frost, each step deliberate. Clara forced herself not to look away, not to shrink though everything in her screamed to run. He stopped 3 feet away. Up close, she could see that his eyes weren't just gray. They were the color of storm clouds, heavy with something she couldn't name. "You want this?" he asked quietly. The question startled her. Nobody had asked what she wanted in 7 years. Clara's voice cracked. She didn't know how to answer. Didn't know what answer would keep her safe. "Don't matter what she wants," Ezra cut in. "She's coming with you, Garrett. That's the deal." Samuel didn't look away from Clara's face. "I'm asking her. And I'm telling you, it don't matter. She's my responsibility. I make the decisions." Something flickered in Samuel's eyes. Something dangerous. "She's got bruises on her face," he said, still not looking at Ezra. "Fresh ones. She fell." "She fell." Samuel's jaw tightened. "That what happened, miss, you fell." Clara's throat closed. She could feel Ezra's glare burning into her back, could practically hear the threat in his silence. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "I fell." Samuel studied her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to his horses. "No deal," he said flatly. "Find someone else." "What?" Ezra's face went purple. "You can't. I brought her out here, told her she was... You can't just... Watch me." Ezra lunged forward, grabbing Samuel's arm. "Now listen here, Garrett. We had an arrangement." Samuel moved faster than Clara's eyes could follow. One moment Ezra had hold of him. The next, Ezra was on his back in the dirt, with Samuel standing over him. "Don't touch me." Samuel's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a threat. "And don't ever put your hands on that girl again. She's mine." Ezra spat, scrambling to his feet. "I raised her, fed her, kept her alive when nobody else would. I got rights." "You got nothing." Samuel untied Storm's lead rope. "And if I hear you've hurt her again, I'll come back here and show you what real hurt feels like." He was leaving. Clara's world tilted. He was leaving, and she would stay here, and Ezra would make her pay for this humiliation in ways she didn't want to imagine. "Please." The word escaped before she could stop it. Small, desperate, pathetic. Samuel paused, his hand on Storm's neck. "Please," Clara said again, louder now, not caring that Ezra would punish her for speaking. "Please don't leave me here." "Shut up," Ezra hissed. "Shut your damn mouth." "He'll kill me," Clara's voice broke. "Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but he will. He's been working up to it for years, and if you leave me here, I'll be dead before spring." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Samuel turned slowly. His gray eyes moved from Clara to Ezra, then back again. "That true?" he asked. "He been hurting you?" Clara's hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. But she met his eyes and told the truth for the first time in 7 years. "Every day, since I was 14 years old." Ezra's face contorted with rage. "You lying little—" He lunged for Clara. She stumbled backward, throwing up her arms, bracing for the blow. It never came. Samuel caught Ezra by the throat, lifting him half off his feet. "I said," Samuel's voice was terrifyingly calm, "don't touch her." Ezra clawed at the hand around his neck, making choking sounds. "Now here's what's going to happen." Samuel's grip didn't loosen. "I'm taking the girl. You're keeping your horse. And if I ever see your face again, I'll break every bone in your body. We clear? Feet kicked uselessly. His face was turning red, then purple. I said, are we clear? A strangled sound that might have been agreement. Samuel released him. Ezra collapsed to the ground, gasping and coughing. Get on Storm. Samuel didn't look at Clara as he spoke. We're leaving. Clara's legs moved without conscious thought. She approached the silver stallion, trembling so hard she could barely see straight. The horse snorted, sensing her fear. Easy, boy. Samuel was there suddenly, his hand on Storm's neck. She's coming with us. Be good. Storm calmed immediately, his dark eyes regarding Clara with what almost looked like understanding. Can you ride? Samuel asked. No, sir. Then you'll go with me. He helped her mount his hands, impersonal but careful, then swung up behind her on his own horse. Hold the saddle horn. Don't let go. Ezra had managed to get to his knees. This ain't over, Garrett. She belongs to me. The law doesn't give a damn about men who beat children. Samuel gathered the reins. And neither do I. He turned the horse toward the trail, Storm following on his lead rope. Clara didn't look back. Couldn't look back. If she looked back, she might shatter. They rode in silence as the sun crept higher and Ezra's ranch disappeared behind the hills. The cold bit through Clara's thin dress, but she barely felt it. She was too focused on not falling apart. Here. Samuel's voice made her jump. He'd shrugged out of his coat one-handed and was holding it toward her. You're shivering. I'm fine. You're turning blue. Take it. Clara took the coat. It was warm from his body heat and smelled like leather and wood smoke and something else. Something that made her feel for just a moment like she might be safe. Thank you, she whispered, pulling it tight around her shoulders. Samuel said nothing, just kept his eyes on the trail ahead. They rode for what felt like hours. The landscape changed gradually. The flat scrubland giving way to rolling hills, then to steeper terrain, with pine trees pressing close on either side. Snow began to fall soft and thick, muffling the sound of the horses' hooves. Storm don't like snow, Samuel said eventually. Makes him skittish. Clara looked at the silver stallion, who was picking his way carefully along the trail. He's beautiful. He knows it too, vain as a peacock. There was something almost like affection in Samuel's voice. My wife picked him out, said she was going to breed champions. Your wife. Clara hesitated. I heard she passed. I'm sorry. Samuel was quiet for a long moment. Fire, he said finally. 6 years ago. Took her and our boy both. I'm sorry, Clara said again, knowing the words were inadequate. Yeah. Samuel's voice was rough. Me too. The snow was falling harder now, and Clara could barely see the trail ahead. She was starting to shiver again despite the coat, her feet long since gone numb. Not much farther, Samuel said, as if sensing her discomfort. Another 20 minutes. Where are we going? My place. Garrett's Rest. He paused. It ain't much, but it's warm. Got food. A bed. A bed. Clara couldn't remember the last time she'd slept in a real bed. Ezra had given her a pallet on the floor of the pantry, drafty and cramped. Why? She asked before she could stop herself. Why what? Why are you helping me? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Samuel was silent for so long, Clara thought he wasn't going to answer. I know what it's like, he said finally. To be alone, to think nobody's coming to help. His arms tightened slightly around her as they navigated a steep section of trail. I wasn't going to leave you there. Couldn't have lived with myself if I did. Clara's throat tightened. She couldn't speak, so she just nodded, hoping he could feel it. They crested a ridge, and suddenly the Garrett homestead spread out before them. A cabin solid and well-maintained with smoke rising from the chimney, a large barn, fenced pastures that stretched toward the tree line. It wasn't grand, but it was cared for, loved even. Home, Samuel said quietly. The word hit Clara strangely. She'd almost forgotten what home meant. They rode down into the valley storm prancing, despite his dislike of snow, clearly recognizing his territory. Samuel guided his horse to the barn first, dismounting and helping Clara down. Her legs nearly buckled when her feet hit the ground. Samuel caught her elbow, steadying her. Easy. You're half frozen. I'm fine, Clara said automatically. Samuel's gray eyes met hers. You keep saying that. I don't think it means what you think it means. Before Clara could respond, he was leading Storm into the barn, checking on the other horses, moving with the efficiency of long practice. Clara stood uncertainly in the doorway watching. You can come in, Samuel said without looking up. Horses don't bite. Well, Storm might, but he's just showing off. Clara stepped into the barn. It was warmer here out of the wind, and it smelled of hay and horse and leather. Familiar smells. Comforting ones. 4 horses occupied the stalls. Storm now settling into his own space. A massive black gelding, who regarded Clara with mild interest. 2 mares, 1 chestnut, and 1 bay. The black one's Thunder, Samuel said, still working on unsaddling Storm. He's mine. The mares are Ruby and Belle. That young one there. He pointed to a smaller horse in the last stall. That's Copper. He's still green, but he's got a good heart. Copper was looking at Clara with large, curious eyes. Without thinking, she moved toward him, holding out her hand, the way she'd seen stable boys do. Copper stretched his neck, sniffing her palm. Then he nuzzled against her hand, soft and warm. He likes you. Samuel had paused in his work to watch. That's rare. He don't take to most people. He's sweet. Clara stroked Copper's nose, feeling something in her chest loosen. Just a baby, really. 3 years old. Acts like a puppy most days. Samuel finished with Storm and moved toward the barn door. Come on. Let's get you inside before you freeze solid. The cabin was small, but warm. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace, filling the room with flickering light. Clara saw a table with 2 chairs, a small kitchen area, shelves lined with books and supplies. It ain't fancy. Samuel said, a note of apology in his voice. It's wonderful. Clara meant it. After 7 years in Ezra's cramped, filthy cabin, this felt like a palace. Samuel moved to the fireplace, building up the flames. There's 2 bedrooms. Mine's through that door. Yours is that one. He pointed to a door on the opposite side of the room. Got a lock on it, from the inside. Clara's breath caught. A lock? Figured you'd want your own space, your own privacy. Samuel straightened, still not quite meeting her eyes. I ain't going to hurt you. I know you got no reason to believe that, but I'm saying it anyway. You're safe here. Safe. The word felt foreign. Impossible. Why? Clara asked again. Why are you doing all this? Samuel was quiet for a moment, staring into the fire. When he spoke, his voice was rough. My boy was 4 when he died. Thomas. He swallowed hard. I think about him every day. Think about all the things I couldn't protect him from. All the ways I failed him. He finally looked at Clara, and she saw the grief in his eyes. Raw and deep, and never quite healed. I couldn't save my son, he said quietly. But maybe I can help you. Maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't. But I'm going to try. Clara's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how to. I can't ever. You don't owe me anything. Samuel's voice was firm. This ain't a debt. This ain't a transaction. You're just here. That's all. You're just here, and you're safe, and tomorrow we figure out the rest. He moved toward the kitchen area. You hungry? I got stew from yesterday. It ain't much, but it's hot. Clara realized she was starving. Ezra had barely fed her, and she couldn't remember her last real meal. Yes, she said. Please. They ate in silence, sitting across from each other at the small table. The stew was simple, but good, warming Clara from the inside out. Samuel ate methodically, his gray eyes a-capering to her face as if checking to make sure she was still there. "You got any family?" he asked eventually. "Besides the uncle." "No, my parents died when I was 14. Fever." Clara set down her spoon. "Ezra was my father's brother. He took me in because nobody else would." "And he hurt you?" It wasn't a question, but Clara answered anyway. "Every day. Said I was a burden. Said I should be grateful he didn't just throw me out." Samuel's jaw tightened. He was wrong. "I know." Clara was surprised to find she meant it. "I know he was wrong, but knowing it and believing it are different things." "Yeah." Samuel pushed his empty bowl away. "They are." The fire crackled. Outside, the snow was falling harder, wind rattling the windows. "Storm's going to be bad," Samuel said. "We might be snowed in for a few days." Clara felt a flicker of anxiety. Trapped in a cabin with a man she didn't know, a man who could do anything to her. "Door locks from the inside," Samuel said as if reading her thoughts. "I meant what I said. You're safe here." He stood collecting the dishes. "Get some sleep. You look like you're about to fall over." Clara hesitated. "I should help clean up." "Tomorrow. Tonight you rest." She wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her, making her limbs heavy. She'd been running on fear and adrenaline for hours. Now that she'd stopped it, her body was demanding payment. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Samuel nodded without looking at her. "Get some rest." Clara made her way to the room he'd indicated. It was small and plain, a narrow bed with a quilt, a chest of drawers, a single window that looked out at the snow-covered mountains. But it was clean. It was warm. And when she closed the door, her fingers found the lock. She turned it. The click was the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. Clara pressed her palm against the door, feeling its solidity. A door that locked from the inside. A room that was hers. A space where no one could reach her. She crossed to the bed and sat down, her legs finally giving out. The quilt smelled like cedar and lavender, and she pulled it up to her chin, wrapping herself in softness. She should be scared. Should be planning her escape, questioning this stranger's motives, preparing for the worst. But instead she felt something she barely recognized. Something that might have been hope. Outside, the wind howled and the snow fell. Somewhere in the cabin she could hear Samuel moving around, banking the fire, securing the doors. Tomorrow would bring questions, complications, reality. But tonight, Clara May Holden had a locked door and a warm bed and the first taste of safety she'd known in 7 years. Tonight that was enough. She closed her eyes and let herself sleep. Clara woke to silence. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Her body tensed, waiting for Ezra's boots on the floor, for his voice demanding she get up and start working. Then she remembered. The transaction. The stranger. The locked door. She sat up slowly, her muscles aching from yesterday's tension. Weak winter light filtered through the window, revealing that the snow had stopped sometime during the night. The world outside was white and still. Clara listened. She could hear movement in the main room. Quiet sounds, controlled. Nothing like Ezra's heavy, angry footsteps. She unlocked the door and opened it a crack. Samuel was at the stove, his back to her. The smell of coffee filled the cabin, rich and warm. He must have heard her because he spoke without turning around. "Coffee's ready. There's bread on the table." Clara stepped out, pulling her thin dress tighter around herself. "I should have been up earlier. I can cook." "You needed sleep." Samuel finally turned, holding 2 tin cups. "Sit down." It wasn't a command. Not really. But Clara found herself obeying anyway, sinking into one of the chairs at the small table. Samuel set a cup in front of her, then took the seat across. "How'd you sleep?" he asked. "Better than I have in years." Samuel nodded, wrapping his hands around his own cup. "Good." They sat in silence for a moment. Clara studied him over the rim of her cup, the lines around his eyes, the scar that disappeared beneath his collar, the way he held himself like a man waiting for the next blow. "What happens now?" she asked. "What do you mean?" "I mean—" Clara set down her cup. "I'm here, in your house. What do you expect from me?" Samuel's gray eyes met hers. "I don't expect anything. Everyone expects something. I ain't everyone." He took a long drink of coffee. "You want to work? There's plenty to do. You don't want to work, that's fine too. You want to leave? I'll take you to town, help you find somewhere else. Your choice." Clara stared at him. "My choice?" "That's what I said. Nobody's ever—" She stopped swallowing hard. "Nobody's ever given me a choice about anything." Something flickered across Samuel's face. Pain, maybe, or understanding. "Well," he said quietly, "you got one now." The days that followed were strange. Clara kept waiting for the other boot to drop, for Samuel to reveal his true nature, to demand payment for his kindness, to show her that he was just like every other man she'd known. It didn't happen. He gave her space, treated her with quiet respect, never raised his voice, never moved too fast, never made her feel trapped. On the third day, Clara found herself in the barn. She hadn't meant to go there. Had just been walking, trying to burn off the restless energy that came from not knowing what to do with herself. But Copper had called to her, a soft whinny that sounded almost like a question. "Hey there," she said, approaching his stall. "Remember me?" Copper stretched his neck toward her, nuzzling her hand. Clara laughed, actually laughed at his eagerness. "You're a friendly one, aren't you? He's been asking for you." Clara spun. Samuel stood in the barn doorway, his arms full of hay. "Asking," she repeated. "Been making noise every time someone walks by. Looking for you, I think." Samuel moved past her to fill the feed bins. "You got away with horses." "I don't know anything about horses." "Don't have to know, just have to feel." He finished with the hay and turned to face her. "You want to learn?" Clara hesitated. "Learn what?" "How to work with them, care for them, ride eventually." Samuel shrugged. "If you're going to be here, might as well make yourself useful, but only if you want." There it was again, that phrase, "only if you want." "I want," Clara said. "I want to learn." Samuel nodded. "All right then, we start tomorrow." He was a patient teacher. Clara hadn't expected that. Hadn't expected the way he'd explain things 3 times without frustration. The way he'd demonstrate instead of just telling. The way he'd correct her mistakes without making her feel stupid. "Hold your hand flat," he said on the 4th morning, watching her offer Copper an apple slice. "Fingers together, otherwise he might mistake them for the apple." Clara adjusted her grip. Copper took the treat delicately, his soft lips tickling her palm. "Good." Samuel's voice was warm, almost proud. "You're a natural." Clara felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I'm just feeding him." "You're connecting with him. That's different." Samuel moved to check Storm's hooves, his movements practiced and sure. Horses know when someone's scared of them. They know when someone's kind. Copper knows you're kind. "How?" "Can't explain it. Just something they sense." Samuel straightened, running his hand along Storm's flank. "Animals don't lie, don't pretend. They see what's real and they respond to it. That's why I prefer them to people mostly." Clara watched him with Storm, saw the way the massive stallion leaned into his touch. "You loved her," she said quietly. "Your wife." Samuel's hand stilled on Storm's neck. "Yeah." "What was she like?" For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he exhaled slowly. "Martha was sunlight. That's the only way I can describe her. She walked into a room and everything got brighter." His voice roughened. "She grew up on a ranch in Montana. Could ride before she could walk. Loved horses more than anything except Thomas." Your son. Our son. Samuel's jaw tightened. He was 4, curious about everything. Used to follow me around asking questions all day. Why's the sky blue? Why do horses sleep standing up? Why? Why? A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Drove me crazy sometimes. I'd give anything to hear those questions now. Clara's throat tightened. The fire. Started in the cabin. Middle of the night. I still don't know how lamp fell, maybe. Or the stove. Samuel's voice went flat, controlled. I woke up to smoke and Martha screaming. Got her out first, then went back for Thomas. He stopped. Clara waited. By the time I found him, the smoke was too thick. I got him outside, but... His voice cracked. He didn't wake up. Smoke took him before the flames could. Samuel. Martha died 2 days later. Burns and smoke damage. She kept asking for Thomas. Kept asking if he was okay. Samuel's gray eyes were bright with unshed tears. I lied to her. Told her he was fine. That he was safe. That she'd see him soon. Clara moved without thinking, crossing the space between them and taking his hand. Samuel flinched at the contact, then stilled. You gave her peace, Clara said quietly. That wasn't a lie. That was mercy. I couldn't save them. The words came out broken. Either of them. You tried. You went back into a burning building. Clara squeezed his hand. That's not failure. That's love. Samuel looked at her. Really looked for the first time since she'd arrived. His gray eyes searched her face like he was looking for something. You lost your parents, he said. How do you keep going? Clara considered the question. I don't know. I just do. One day at a time, one breath at a time. Some days I want to give up. Most days, honestly. But then the sun rises, and I'm still here, and there's nothing to do but keep moving. That sounds exhausting. It is. Clara smiled sadly. But it's better than the alternative. Samuel's hand turned in hers, his fingers intertwining with her own. Neither of them spoke. They just stood there in the quiet barn while the horses shifted in their stalls and dust motes floated in the morning light. That night, Samuel brought out a chess set. My father taught me, he said, setting up the pieces on the small table. Figured I'd pass on the knowledge. Clara shook her head. I don't know how to play. That's why I'm teaching you. Samuel gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. He explained the rules, slowly pointing to each piece and describing how it moved. Clara listened carefully, trying to commit everything to memory. The queen is the most powerful, Samuel said, holding up the carved figure. She can move any direction, any number of spaces. The king can only move one space at a time, but he's the most important. Lose him, you lose the game. So the queen protects the king. The queen does most of the work. Samuel set the piece down. King just tries not to get killed. Clara laughed. Sounds about right. They played 3 games. Clara lost all of them, but each time she lasted a little longer, understood a little more. You're catching on fast, Samuel said, resetting the board for a 4th game. Got a head for strategy. I've had a lot of practice. Clara moved her pawn forward. Figuring out how to survive Ezra was like a chess game. Always thinking 3 steps ahead, trying to predict what he'd do next. Samuel's hand paused over his knight. You shouldn't have had to do that. No, I shouldn't have. Clara met his eyes. But I did, and I survived. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. They finished the game in comfortable silence. Clara lost again, but she didn't mind. She was too focused on the warmth of the fire, the steadiness of Samuel's presence, the strange feeling of being somewhere she might actually belong. A week passed. Then 2. Clara fell into a rhythm she hadn't known she needed. Mornings with the horses learning to brush their coats and clean their hooves and read their moods. Afternoons helping around the cabin, cooking, cleaning, mending things that had been neglected for years. Evenings by the fire with Samuel playing chess, or reading, or just sitting in companionable silence. The nightmares still came. Clara would wake gasping Ezra's voice echoing in her head, his hands reaching for her in the dark. But when she opened her eyes, she'd see the locked door, feel the solid walls around her, and remember. She was safe. She was free. She was here. One morning, Samuel handed her a pair of boots. "Found these in storage," he said gruffly. They were Martha's. Might be a bit big, but they're better than bare feet. Clara took them with trembling hands. They were good boots, worn soft, with use practical and warm. "I can't." "You can." Samuel turned away, uncomfortable with gratitude. She'd want someone to use them. No point letting good boots go to waste. Clara slipped them on. They were only slightly too big, nothing some extra socks wouldn't fix. "Thank you," she whispered. Samuel just nodded, already heading for the barn. The first time Clara rode a horse, she nearly fell off. "Easy." Samuel set his hand steady on Copper's bridle. "Don't grip so tight. Let your body move with his." Clara tried to relax, but her muscles screamed in protest. Every shift of Copper's weight felt like an earthquake. "I can't." "You can. Just breathe." Samuel's voice was calm, steady. "Copper's not going to hurt you. He's just walking. Let him carry you." Clara closed her eyes and focused on breathing. In, out, in, out. Slowly, gradually, her body began to adjust. She stopped fighting Copper's movement and started flowing with it. The terror faded, replaced by something else. Something that felt almost like freedom. "Open your eyes," Samuel said. Clara did. They were at the far end of the paddock, Copper walking steadily, Clara sitting tall in the saddle. "I'm doing it," she breathed. "I'm riding." "You're riding." Samuel's smile was small but real. "How's it feel?" Clara laughed, the sound bright and wild. "Like flying." That night she couldn't stop talking about it. The way he moved it was like dancing, Clara said, gesturing with her hands, while Samuel listened. "And when he started trotting, I thought I was going to die, but then I found the rhythm and it was amazing, and I can't believe I never—" She stopped suddenly, self-conscious. "Sorry, I'm babbling." "Don't be sorry." Samuel's gray eyes were warm. "I like hearing you talk." "You do. You've got life in you, fire." He shook his head slowly. "I forgot what that looks like. It's good to be reminded." Clara felt heat rise to her cheeks. I'm nothing special." "That's not true." Samuel leaned forward, his expression serious. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. You survived 7 years of hell and came out the other side still able to laugh, still able to hope. That's not nothing. That's everything." Clara's throat tightened. Nobody had ever spoken to her like this. Nobody had ever seen her as anything but a burden, an obligation, a mouth to feed. "Why do you say things like that?" she asked quietly. "Like what?" "Like I matter. Like I'm worth something." Samuel was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and crossed to where she sat, kneeling in front of her chair, so their eyes were level. "Because you do matter," he said. "Because you are worth something. And because somewhere along the way, someone made you believe you weren't. That was a lie, Clara. The biggest lie anyone ever told you." Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. She couldn't stop them, couldn't hold them back. "I don't know how to believe that," she whispered. "Then I'll believe it for you." Samuel's hand rose slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "Until you can believe it for yourself." Clara caught his hand, holding it against her face. His skin was rough with calluses, warm against her cold cheek. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Really? Why me?" Samuel's jaw tightened. "Because I couldn't save them. Martha, Thomas, I couldn't save them, and I've been dying ever since. just going through the motions waiting for it to be over. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Then you showed up, brave and fighting even when you had nothing left. And I thought maybe this is why I'm still here. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Save me. Help you save yourself. Samuel's lips quirked. There's a difference. Clara didn't know who moved first. Maybe they both did. But suddenly, his lips were on hers, gentle and questioning, and she was kissing him back. It lasted only a moment. Then Samuel pulled away, his expression stricken. I'm sorry, he said, standing abruptly. I shouldn't have. You've been through hell and I'm taking advantage. Samuel. He stopped, his back to her. You're not taking advantage. Clara rose from her chair, crossing to stand behind him. I kissed you back. I wanted to. You don't know what you want. You're vulnerable. You're scared. I'm not scared of you. Clara touched his shoulder, felt him flinch. I'm scared of everything else in this world, but not you. Never you. Samuel turned slowly. His gray eyes searched her face. This is fast, he said. Too fast. I know. We barely know each other. I know. There's so much. I've got ghosts, Clara. So many ghosts. Some nights I can't breathe from the weight of them. Clara took his hand. I've got ghosts too. Maybe we can carry them together. Samuel closed his eyes. I don't deserve... Let me decide what you deserve. Clara's voice was firm. Let me choose for once. Let me choose you. When he opened his eyes again, they were wet with tears. Okay, he whispered. Okay. He kissed her again, softer this time, sweeter. A promise and a question all wrapped up together. Clara kissed him back and felt something crack open in her chest. Something that had been locked away for 7 years, maybe longer. Something that felt like hope. They pulled apart eventually, both breathing hard. We should... Samuel cleared his throat. We should take this slow. Yes. Figure out what we're doing. Yes. I'm not good at this. Talking. Feelings. Any of it. Clara smiled. Neither am I. So we'll be bad at it together. That sounds about right. Samuel laughed, the sound rusty with disuse. God, you're something else. Is that good? That's the best thing that's happened to me in 6 years. They stood there in the firelight, hands intertwined, while the snow fell outside and the world held its breath. Clara didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if this fragile new thing between them would survive the weight of their combined grief. Didn't know if Ezra would come for her, if the past would catch up, if the future would be as dark as she feared. But tonight, she had this. A warm cabin, a good man, a locked door, and a choice she'd made for herself. Tonight, that was enough. She squeezed Samuel's hand. Teach me another chess game, she asked. Samuel smiled. Really smiled, the expression transforming his weathered face. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I can do that. They sat down at the table, and Clara reached for the pieces, and outside the wind howled, and the snow fell, and inside 2 broken people started learning how to be whole. 3 weeks into her new life, Clara met Josie Callahan. The older woman arrived on a gray morning, her horse picking through the snow with practiced ease. Clara was in the barn with Copper when she heard the hoofbeats, and her whole body went rigid with fear. Easy, Samuel said, appearing beside her. That's just Josie. Town healer. She checks on me every few weeks, whether I want her to or not. Clara's heart was still pounding. You're sure? I'm sure. Samuel touched her shoulder briefly. Come on. She'll want to meet you. Josie Callahan was not what Clara expected. She was maybe 60, with gray hair pulled back in a practical bun, and eyes that seemed to see everything. She dismounted with the ease of someone half her age, and fixed Samuel with a stern look. 3 weeks, she said. 3 weeks and not a word. I had to hear from Mrs. Patterson at the general store that you'd taken in a girl. Josie. Don't you Josie me Samuel Garrett. She turned those sharp eyes on Clara. You must be Clara. I'm Ada Josephine Callahan, but everyone calls me Josie. I deliver baby's set bones and keep this fool alive despite his best efforts. Clara didn't know what to say. Ma'am? None of that ma'am business. Makes me feel old. Josie's expression softened. How are you, child, really? The question caught Clara off guard. Nobody had asked her that since she'd arrived. Samuel asked if she needed things, if she was hungry, if she was cold. But this was different. This was someone looking at her and seeing the wounds beneath the surface. Clara's voice wavered. I'm okay. Josie studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. You will be. That's what matters. She turned back to Samuel. You going to invite me in, or are we going to freeze out here? Inside? Josie made herself at home. She brewed tea from herbs she'd brought, checked Samuel's cupboards, and tutted at the lack of vegetables, and generally filled the cabin with energy that had been missing. So, she said, settling into a chair with her tea. Tell me everything. Samuel gave her an abbreviated version. Ezra's cruelty, the transaction, Clara's choice to come with him. Josie listened without interrupting. When he finished, she set down her cup. Ezra Holden always was a piece of work. His wife left him, 15 years ago, ran off with a cattle driver from Colorado. He's been mean as a snake ever since. She looked at Clara. You're not the first person he's hurt. Just the first one brave enough to get away. I didn't get away, Clara said quietly. Samuel saved me. Samuel gave you an option. You're the one who took it. Josie's voice was firm. Don't diminish what you did, child. You spoke up. You asked for help. That takes more courage than most people have. Clara's throat tightened. I was just scared. Fear and courage aren't opposites. They're partners. Josie reached across and took Clara's hand. You're going to be fine. Better than fine. I can see it in you. After Josie left, Clara sat by the fire and thought about her words, about courage and fear, and the strange path that had brought her here. She likes you, Samuel said, coming in from seeing Josie off. How can you tell? She didn't threaten to poison anyone. Samuel's lips quirked. That's her version of approval. Clara laughed despite herself. She's intense. She's the best person I know. Samuel sat down across from her. When Martha and Thomas died, she's the one who kept me alive. Showed up every day for months, made sure I ate, made sure I didn't do anything stupid. Like what? Samuel was quiet for a moment. Like follow them. The words hung in the air. Clara understood their weight, understood what he was telling her. But you didn't, she said softly. No, I didn't. Samuel's gray eyes met hers. Some days, I'm not sure why. Other days, I'm glad. What about today? Samuel looked at her for a long moment. Today, I'm glad. The next morning, Samuel announced they were going to town. We need supplies, he said over breakfast. And you need proper clothes. That dress is falling apart. Clara looked down at herself. He was right. The thin cotton was worn through in places, barely held together by her amateur mending. I don't have any money, she said. I do. I can't let you, Clara. Samuel's voice was patient. You can and you will. This isn't charity. Consider it an advance on wages if it makes you feel better. Wages? You've been working, helping with the horses, cooking, cleaning. That's labor. Labor gets paid. Samuel stood clearing his dishes. We leave in an hour. The ride to Bitter Creek took nearly 2 hours. Clara rode behind Samuel on Thunder, her arms wrapped around his waist, trying not to think about how good it felt to be close to him. The town was bigger than she'd expected. A main street lined with buildings, people moving about their business horses, tied to hitching posts. Clara's stomach tightened as they rode in. She could feel eyes turning toward them, could hear the whispers starting. "Ignore them," Samuel said quietly. "Small town, nothing better to do than gossip." They stopped at the general store first. Samuel helped Clara down, his hands lingering at her waist for just a moment before he stepped back. "Mrs. Patterson," he said, nodding to the woman behind the counter. "We need supplies, and Miss Holden needs some clothes." Mrs. Patterson's eyes swept over Clara with barely concealed curiosity. "Miss Holden, I heard you were staying out at Garrett's place." "Yes, ma'am." Clara kept her voice steady. Mrs. Patterson's expression was unreadable. "Clothes are in the back. I'll show you." The selection was limited, but Clara found 2 practical dresses, some undergarments, and a warm wool coat that made her want to weep with gratitude. She brought them to the counter where Samuel was already loading supplies. "That everything?" he asked. "It's too much. It's not enough." Samuel added a pair of wool socks to the pile. "You need gloves too, and a hat." "Samuel, don't argue with me, woman. You'll lose." Clara couldn't help the smile that tugged at her lips. "Fine." They were loading the supplies onto Thunder when a voice cut through the street. "Well, well, if it ain't Samuel Garrett." Clara's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice. Knew it like she knew the sound of her own heartbeat. Ezra Holden stood 20 feet away, swaying slightly. Even from this distance, Clara could smell the whiskey on him. Samuel stepped in front of Clara, his body a shield. "Holden." "You got something of mine, Garrett?" Ezra's eyes fixed on Clara. "Come to take it back." "She's not yours." Samuel's voice was deadly calm. "She never was." "The hell she wasn't." Ezra took a step forward. "I raised that girl, fed her, kept her alive. She owes me." "She owes you nothing." "You think you can just take what's mine?" Ezra's voice rose, drawing attention from passers-by. "You think I'm going to let some grieving hermit steal my property?" Samuel's hand moved to his belt where Clara knew he kept a knife. "Walk away, Holden. This doesn't have to end badly." "It already ended badly. When you took what wasn't yours." Ezra's eyes found Clara again. "Come here, girl. Now." Clara's legs trembled. Every instinct screamed at her to obey, to run to him, to do whatever he wanted, to avoid the punishment that would follow. But she didn't move. "No," she said. Her voice shook, but the word was clear. Ezra's face contorted. "What did you say?" "I said no." Clara stepped out from behind Samuel, her hands clenched into fists. "I'm not coming with you. I'm not your property. I'm not your anything." "You ungrateful little—" "I'm done." Clara's voice grew stronger. 7 years I let you hurt me. 7 years I believed I deserved it. But I don't. I never did. Ezra lunged forward. Samuel moved faster, catching him by the collar and slamming him against the nearest hitching post. "Touch her." Samuel said, his voice low and dangerous. "And I'll kill you. Right here. Right now. Don't think I won't." Ezra struggled, but Samuel's grip was iron. "You can't do this. There's laws. The law doesn't protect men who beat children." Samuel leaned closer. "And even if it did, I don't care. You come near her again, you send anyone near her, you even look in her direction, I'll end you. We clear." Ezra's face was purple with rage, but Clara could see the fear beneath it, the realization that he'd lost. "This ain't over," he spat. "Yeah, it is." Samuel released him, and Ezra stumbled. "Get out of my sight." Ezra stood there for a moment, his eyes burning with hatred. Then he turned and staggered away, disappearing into the saloon. Clara's legs gave out. Samuel caught her before she hit the ground. "I've got you," he murmured. "I've got you." "He found me." Clara's voice was barely a whisper. "He found me." "He's not going to hurt you. I won't let him." "You can't watch me every second. Then I'll teach you to protect yourself." Samuel's arms tightened around her. "But he's not going to hurt you. Not ever again. I promise." Clara buried her face in his chest and let herself shake. The ride home was silent. Clara clung to Samuel, her mind racing with fear and fury, and something else. Something that felt like strength. She'd said no. She'd stood up to Ezra. After 7 years of silence, she'd finally spoken. And she was still here, still breathing, still alive. When they reached the cabin, Samuel helped her down and led her inside. He built up the fire, made coffee, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Small kindnesses that made Clara's heart ache. "I'm sorry," she said finally. Samuel looked up from the fire. "For what?" "For bringing him to your door. For causing trouble. For—" "Stop." Samuel crossed to her, kneeling in front of her chair. "You didn't bring him anywhere. He came because he's a cruel, petty man who can't accept that he lost. None of this is your fault." "But none of it." Samuel's hands found hers. "You hear me? This is his doing, not yours." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I was so scared." "I know. But I said no. I actually said no." "You did." Samuel's smile was proud. "You were brave." "I didn't feel brave. Brave people never do." He squeezed her hands. "They just keep going anyway." Clara looked at him. This man who'd saved her, who'd given her a choice, who'd stood between her and her nightmare, without hesitation. "I love you," she said. The words came out before she could stop them, before she could think about whether they were too soon, too much, too fast. Samuel went still. "Clara, I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other. But I love you. I've never felt safe with anyone in my entire life, and I feel safe with you." She pulled her hands free to cup his face. "I love you, Samuel Garrett, and I don't care if it's too soon to say it." Samuel closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were bright with tears. "I love you too," he said hoarsely. "God help me, I do. I didn't think I could feel this again, didn't think I had it left in me." "You do?" "Yeah." He turned his head, pressing a kiss to her palm. "I do." He kissed her then. Not gentle, not questioning, fierce and desperate, and full of everything they'd both been holding back. Clara kissed him back with equal intensity, pouring all her fear and hope and love into the connection. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Samuel rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said. Clara's heart stopped. "What?" "Marry me." Samuel pulled back to look at her. "I know it's fast. I know there's 100 reasons we should wait. But life's short and cruel, and it takes things from you without warning. I don't want to wait. I want to spend whatever time I've got left with you." "Samuel, you don't have to answer now. Think about it. Take as long as you need." "Yes." Samuel blinked. "Yes. Yes." Clara laughed through her tears. "Yes, I'll marry you." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." She kissed him again. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Samuel pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was something precious, something worth protecting. "We'll do it right," he said against her hair. "Proper ceremony. Josie can witness. Make it legal so nobody can say anything." "I don't care about proper." Clara pulled back to look at him. "I just care about you." "Well, I care about proper." Samuel's jaw set stubbornly. "You deserve a real wedding, a real marriage, not some backroom arrangement." "Is that what you think this is?" "I think—" Samuel paused. "I think you've been treated like you don't matter for so long you've forgotten that you do. And I want to show you, every day for the rest of our lives, that you matter, that you're worth everything." Clara's throat closed. She couldn't speak, so she just nodded. They sat together in the firelight making plans. Josie would officiate. She had the authority, being the closest thing to a town elder that Bitter Creek had. They'd do it soon before Ezra could cause more trouble. "He's not going to give up," Clara said quietly. "You know that." I know. Samuel's arm tightened around her. But we'll be ready. How? I'll teach you to shoot, to defend yourself. And we'll talk to Sheriff Dawson, make sure there's a Ezra's done. Samuel's jaw set. He's not taking you from me. Not now. Not ever. Clara leaned into him, drawing strength from his certainty. Tell me something, she said. Something about the future. Something good. Samuel was quiet for a moment. When spring comes, we'll plant a garden. Vegetables and flowers both. You'll learn to can and preserve. We'll have food all through next winter. What else? The mares will foal. Ruby's already pregnant. By summer we'll have new horses, new life. What else? Samuel's hand moved to her stomach, resting there gently. Maybe someday, if you want. Clara's breath caught. A family. A family. Samuel's voice was rough. I never thought I'd want that again. After Thomas, I thought that part of me was dead. But with you, I want that. Clara covered his hand with her own. I want everything with you. They sat there in the fading firelight, dreaming of futures neither of them had dared to imagine. Outside, the wind howled and the snow fell, but inside there was warmth and hope, and the beginning of something beautiful. Clara didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if Ezra would come for her, if the fragile peace they'd built would shatter. But she knew one thing. She wasn't alone anymore. She had Samuel. She had love. She had a choice. And whatever came next, they would face it together. She closed her eyes and let herself believe in the future. For the first time in her life, it actually seemed possible. The wedding happened 3 days later. Josie arrived at dawn carrying a bundle wrapped in brown paper and wearing an expression that dared anyone to argue with her. I brought you something, she said, thrusting the package at Clara. It was mine. Wore it when I married my Henry 40 years ago. It's seen better days, but it's still got life in it. Clara unwrapped the paper with trembling fingers. Inside was a dress. Simple cream-colored cotton with delicate lace at the collar and cuffs. Not fancy, but beautiful in its simplicity. Josie, I can't. You can and you will. Josie's voice was gruff, but her eyes were soft. Every bride deserves to feel beautiful, even practical ones. Clara held the dress against her chest, tears pricking her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see how much work it takes to get you presentable. Josie took her arm. Come on, we've got 3 hours and a lot to do. Samuel was banished to the barn while Josie worked her magic. She heated water for a proper bath, helped Clara wash her hair with soap that smelled like lavender, and spent an hour braiding and pinning until Clara barely recognized herself. Look at you, Josie said, stepping back to admire her work. You're a vision. Clara turned to the small mirror hanging on the wall. The woman staring back at her was a stranger. Clean and bright-eyed with color in her cheeks and hope in her expression. I don't look like me, she whispered. You look exactly like you. Josie squeezed her shoulder. You just forgot what you looked like without all that fear weighing you down. The ceremony was simple. They stood in the main room of the cabin, firelight dancing on the walls while Josie read from a worn Bible she'd brought. Clara barely heard the words. She was too focused on Samuel. On the way he looked at her like she was something precious. On the slight tremor in his hands when he took hers. On the love in his gray eyes that made her believe finally that she was worth loving. Do you, Samuel Garrett, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. No hesitation, no doubt. And do you, Clara May Holden, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Clara's voice was steady. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the territory of Wyoming and the good Lord above, I pronounce you husband and wife. Josie smiled. Kiss your bride, Samuel. He did, soft and reverent, like a prayer made flesh. Clara kissed him back and felt something shift inside her. Something that had been broken for 7 years, finally clicking into place. She was married. She was safe. She was home. Josie stayed for supper, producing a bottle of wine she'd hidden in her saddlebag. "To the Garretts," she said, raising her glass. "May your troubles be few and your blessings be many." They drank. They ate. They laughed. Clara couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed so much. The sound felt foreign in her throat, rusty from disuse, but right. "I knew you two would end up together," Josie announced, slightly tipsy from the wine. "The moment I saw how Samuel looked at you, I knew." "How did he look at me?" Clara asked. "Like a drowning man who'd just spotted land." Josie patted Samuel's arm. "He's been treading water for 6 years, waiting to go under. You gave him something to swim toward." Samuel's ears went red. "Josie, don't Josie me. It's true and you know it." She turned to Clara. "And you looked at him like he'd hung the moon. Pair of fools, both of you. Thank God you found each other." After Josie left, Clara and Samuel stood on the porch, watching her horse disappear into the darkness. "Mrs. Garrett," Samuel said softly. Clara smiled. "Mr. Garrett, how does it feel?" "Terrifying." She leaned into him. "Wonderful." Both at once. Samuel's arm wrapped around her. "I never thought I'd do this again. Stand here with a wife. Plan a future. Are you glad you did?" "More than I can say." He turned her to face him. "You saved me, Clara. You know that, right? Whatever happens next, you saved me." "We saved each other." Clara rose on her toes to kiss him. "That's how it works." They went inside. The cabin felt different now. Not just Samuel's space, but theirs. Shared. Joined. That night they lay together in the darkness, learning each other's landscapes with gentle hands and whispered words. "Tell me if I hurt you," Samuel murmured against her hair. "You won't." "Tell me anyway." She did. And he didn't. Afterward, Clara lay with her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Strong and steady. Alive. "I never thought I could feel like this," she said quietly. "Like what?" "Happy." The word felt strange on her tongue. "Safe. Loved." Samuel's arms tightened around her. "Get used to it. Because I'm going to spend every day making sure you feel exactly that way." Clara smiled into the darkness and let herself believe him. The peace lasted 4 days. Clara was in the barn brushing copper when she heard the horses. Multiple horses moving fast. Her blood went cold. "Samuel!" she screamed. He was there in seconds, rifle in hand. "How many?" "I don't know. 3, maybe 4. Samuel's jaw tightened. "Get inside. Lock the door. Don't come out until I say." "I'm not leaving you." "Clara." His voice was sharp. "I need you safe. I can't fight if I'm worried about you." She wanted to argue, wanted to stand beside him, face whatever was coming together. But she saw the fear in his eyes, the desperate need to protect her, and she understood. "I love you," she said. "I love you too. Now go." Clara ran. She made it to the cabin just as the riders appeared. 4 men, their faces masked with bandanas. And behind them, on a limping horse, was Ezra. "Garrett!" Ezra's voice was slurred ugly. "You got something of mine." Samuel stood his ground, rifle raised. "Turn around, Holden. This is your last warning." "Warning?" Ezra laughed. "You're outnumbered, boy. 4 guns to your 1. How you think this ends?" "With you dead if you don't leave." One of the hired men shifted nervously. "Holden, you didn't say nothing about killing." "Shut up." Ezra dismounted, swaying. "Get the girl. Burn the rest." The men hesitated. They were rough, dangerous looking, but there was uncertainty in their eyes. "You sure about this?" another one asked. "This looks like trouble." "I'm paying you to do a job, not ask questions." Ezra pulled out a flask, took a long drink. Get the girl. The first man nudged his horse forward. Samuel fired. The bullet caught the man's shoulder. He screamed, falling from his horse. Goes through someone's head. Samuel said, his voice deadly calm. Who wants to test me? The remaining 3 men exchanged glances. 2 of them were already edging their horses backward. This ain't worth it, one muttered. I didn't sign up for getting shot. Get back here, Ezra screamed. I paid you. Keep your money. The man wheeled his horse around. I'm out. The other rider followed. In seconds they were gone, their hoofbeats fading into the distance. That left Ezra and the wounded man who was still on the ground clutching his shoulder and groaning. Just you and me now, Holden. Samuel lowered his rifle slightly. Last chance. Walk away. Ezra's face contorted with rage. You think you've won. You think you can just take her and I'll let it go. I think you're a drunk, pathetic old man who's about to die if he doesn't leave. She's mine, Ezra screamed. I made her. Everything she is. You made nothing. Samuel's voice was hard. You broke her, hurt her, made her believe she was worthless. But she's not. She's the strongest person I've ever known. And you're nothing but a bully who can't accept that he lost. Ezra pulled a pistol from his belt. His hand shook, but his aim was steady enough to be dangerous. Put it down, Samuel said, or what you'll shoot me. Ezra laughed wildly. Go ahead, do it. See what happens when the sheriff comes asking questions. Self-defense. You came to my property with armed men. Any court would. You think I care about courts? Ezra cocked the pistol. I'm going to kill you, Garrett. Then I'm going to take back what's mine. And nobody's going to stop me. The gunshot split the air. Clara screamed, but Samuel didn't fall. It was Ezra who stumbled, looking down at the bloom of red spreading across his chest, with an expression of pure confusion. Behind him, still mounted on her horse, Josie Callahan lowered her rifle. Sorry I'm late, she said calmly. Had a baby to deliver in town. Ezra dropped to his knees. His pistol fell from his hand, landing in the snow with a soft thud. You, he gasped. You shot me. Yes, I did. Josie dismounted, walking toward him. And I'd do it again. You were about to kill an innocent man for no reason other than your own twisted pride. Clara? Ezra's voice was weakening. Clara's mine? Clara is her own. Josie knelt beside him, her expression cold. She was never yours. Not really. You just convinced her she was because it made you feel powerful. Ezra's eyes found Clara, who had emerged from the cabin and now stood on the porch, frozen. I raised you, he whispered. I kept you alive. Clara walked forward. Her legs were shaking, but she forced them to move to carry her to where her uncle lay bleeding in the snow. You hurt me, she said quietly. Every day for 7 years. You made me believe I was worthless. Made me believe I deserve pain. But I don't. Clara's voice grew stronger. I never did. And now it's over. You're over. Ezra's mouth opened, but no words came out. His eyes glazed over, fixed on nothing. He was gone. Clara stared at the body of the man who had haunted her nightmares for 7 years. She waited for relief, for triumph, for something. Instead, she felt empty. Clara. Samuel's voice was gentle. His hand found her shoulder. It's done. I know. She couldn't look away from Ezra's face. I thought I'd feel different. Different how? I don't know. Happy maybe. Free. Clara shook her head. But I just feel sad. He was my father's brother, the only family I had left. He wasn't family. Josie's voice was firm. Family doesn't hurt you, doesn't break you down. What he did that wasn't love, that was ownership. I know. Clara finally looked away. I know that here. She touched her head. But here, She moved her hand to her heart. Here it's harder. Samuel pulled her into his arms. That's because you've got a good heart. Better than he deserved. They stood there in the cold holding each other, while Josie checked on the wounded hired man and made arrangements for the bodies. Sheriff will need to know, Josie said eventually, but it's clear-cut, self-defense. I'll testify to what I saw. Will there be trouble? Clara asked. Some questions probably, but no, I don't think so. Josie's expression softened. Ezra Holden made a lot of enemies in this town. Nobody's going to cry over his grave. The sheriff came that afternoon. He asked questions, took statements, looked at the scene with the weary eyes of a man who'd seen too much violence. Seems straightforward, he said finally. Holden came with armed men threatened. You drew a weapon. Mrs. Callahan acted to prevent a murder. He tipped his hat to Josie. Good shooting, ma'am. I've had practice. After the sheriff left, after the bodies were taken away, after the blood in the snow began to be covered by fresh flakes, Clara and Samuel sat together by the fire. How are you? Samuel asked quietly. I don't know. Clara stared into the flames. Relieved, I think. Scared that I'm relieved. Guilty that I'm not more sad. You're allowed to feel all of those things. Am I? He was my uncle. My blood. Shouldn't I? Blood doesn't make family. Samuel took her hand. Love does. Loyalty does. Being there for each other does. Ezra gave you none of those things. Clara was quiet for a moment. My father was nothing like him. He was kind, gentle, used to read to me every night before bed. Tell me about him. So she did. She talked about her father's laugh, her mother's cooking the small farmhouse where she'd spent her happy early years, about the fever that took them both in the space of 2 weeks, leaving her alone in the world. I thought Ezra would be like my father, she said. I was 14 and scared, and I thought he's family. He'll take care of me. I'm sorry he didn't. Me too. Clara leaned against Samuel's shoulder. But if he had, I might not be here. With you. That's one way to look at it. It's the only way I can look at it. Otherwise, she shook her head. Otherwise, I'll go crazy trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. Samuel kissed the top of her head. You're stronger than you know. I'm tired of being strong. Then rest. His arm tightened around her. I'll be strong for both of us tonight. Clara closed her eyes and let herself lean into him, let herself be held, let herself feel safe for the first time since the riders had appeared. It was over. Ezra was gone. She was free. Now she just had to figure out what to do with that freedom. The weeks that followed were quiet. Healing time, Josie called it. Time to grieve the family. Clara had never really had time to process the violence. Time to adjust to a world where she didn't have to look over her shoulder anymore. Clara threw herself into work. The horses needed tending, the cabin needed cleaning. Spring was coming, and there was a garden to plan. She worked until she was too tired to think, fell into bed exhausted, and woke to do it again. Samuel watched her with worried eyes, but didn't push. Just made sure she ate, made sure she slept, made sure she knew he was there. One night, nearly a month after Ezra's death, Clara woke screaming. Samuel was there immediately, pulling her close, murmuring words she couldn't quite hear. It's okay, he said. You're safe. I've got you. He was... Clara's breath came in gasps. In the dream he was here. He was hurting me, and I couldn't... He's gone. He can't hurt you anymore. But I can still feel him. Clara's hands were shaking. In my head, in my bones. He's still there. Samuel held her tighter. Then we'll get him out, however long it takes. We'll get him out together. Clara cried. Really cried for the first time since that day. All the tears she'd been holding back, all the grief and fear and anger came pouring out in great racking sobs. Samuel held her through it. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't try to make it better. just held her and let her break. When the storm finally passed, Clara felt hollowed out but lighter, like something toxic had been purged. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm supposed to be happy. We're married. He's gone. Everything should be perfect." "Nothing's ever perfect." Samuel's voice was gentle. "And healing doesn't happen overnight. You spent 7 years being hurt. It's going to take time to undo that." "How much time?" "However long it takes." He kissed her forehead. "I'm not going anywhere." Clara looked up at him. This man who'd saved her, married her, stood by her through everything. "What did I do to deserve you?" "You survived." Samuel's gray eyes were fierce. "That's more than enough." Spring came slowly then, all at once. One morning, Clara stepped outside to find the snow melting the first brave shoots of green pushing through the brown earth. Birds were singing. The air smelled like mud and new growth and possibility. "It's warm," she said, surprised. Samuel came to stand beside her. Spring finally decided to show up. "It's beautiful." "Yeah." But he was looking at her, not the landscape. "It is." They planted the garden together. Vegetables on one side, flowers on the other. Samuel had ordered seeds from town. Practical things like carrots and potatoes, but also wildflower seeds that Clara had asked for. "My mother had flowers," she explained as she pressed seeds into the dark soil. "Said a home wasn't a home without something beautiful growing." She was right. Ruby foaled in April, a perfect little filly with her mother's chestnut coloring and her father's spirit. "What should we name her?" Samuel asked, watching Clara bottle feed the newborn. "Hope." The word came without thinking. "I want to name her Hope." Samuel smiled. "Hope it is." The filly grew quickly long-legged and curious. She followed Clara everywhere, nickering for attention, nuzzling her pockets for treats. Clara fell in love with her completely. "You've got a shadow," Samuel observed one evening watching Hope trail Clara across the yard. "She's special." Clara scratched behind the filly's ears. "She's the first good thing that's been born since I got here. The first thing that's just about new life, not death or pain or fear." "We could use more of that." "We will." Clara looked up at him, something tender in her expression. "I think we will." By summer, the farm was thriving. The garden produced more vegetables than they could eat. The horses were healthy and strong. Josie visited regularly, bringing news from town and complaints about her various patients. "Mrs. Patterson's convinced she's dying," she reported one afternoon. "Again, 3rd time this year." "What's wrong with her this time?" Clara asked, pouring coffee. "Indigestion. Told her to stop eating so much fried food, but does she listen?" "Of course not." Josie accepted the cup gratefully. "How are you two doing?" "Good." Clara glanced at Samuel, who was reading by the window. "Really good." "Mm-hmm." Josie's eyes were knowing. "Anything you want to tell me?" Clara felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I don't know what you mean." "Child, I've been delivering babies for 40 years. I know the signs." Josie set down her cup. "How far along?" Samuel's head snapped up. "What?" Clara couldn't meet his eyes. "I wasn't sure. I didn't want to say anything until—" "How far along?" Josie repeated. 3 months, I think. Maybe a little more." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Samuel was across the room, lifting Clara out of her chair, spinning her around with a joy she'd never seen on his face before. "A baby," he breathed. "We're having a baby. Put me down." Clara laughed. "You'll make me sick." He set her down, but didn't let go, his hands framing her face, his gray eyes wet with tears. "A baby," he said again. "Are you happy?" "Happy." Samuel laughed, the sound bright and wild. "Clara, I don't have words. I thought after Thomas, I thought I'd never—" "I know." Clara covered his hands with hers. I know. Josie cleared her throat. Well, I hate to interrupt, but I should probably examine you properly. Make sure everything's progressing as it should. The examination confirmed what Clara had suspected. She was healthy, the baby was growing well, and if all went according to plan, they'd welcome their child in the late fall. You'll need to take it easy, Josie instructed. No heavy lifting, no riding until I say otherwise. Rest when you're tired, eat when you're hungry. I'll make sure she does, Samuel said. I know you will. Josie patted his arm. You're going to be a good father, Samuel Garrett. You were before, and you will be again. After she left, Clara and Samuel sat together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Are you scared? Clara asked. Terrified. Samuel's hand found hers. What if something goes wrong? What if I can't protect? You can't control everything. Clara squeezed his fingers. Bad things happen. But good things happen too. And we can't let fear of the bad keep us from hoping for the good. When did you get so wise? I learned from watching you. Clara leaned against his shoulder. You lost everything, and you're still here. Still hoping. Still loving. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Samuel was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I was ready to die, you know. Before you came. I was just waiting for an excuse to stop fighting. What changed, you? He turned to look at her. You showed up scared and brave and fighting even when you had nothing left. And I thought if she can keep going after everything she's been through, what excuse do I have? So we saved each other. We saved each other. Samuel kissed her softly. And now we're going to build something together. A family. A life. Something good. Clara smiled against his lips. Something good. They sat there as the sun set, and the stars came out dreaming of the future, of the baby growing inside her, of the life they would build together. For the first time in either of their lives, the future looked bright, and they were ready to meet it. The leaves were turning when Clara felt the first pain. She was in the garden harvesting the last of the squash when it hit her, a sharp cramping low in her belly that made her gasp and double over. Samuel! He was there in seconds, his face pale with fear. What is it? What's wrong? The baby. Clara gripped his arm. I think it's coming. It's too early, Josie said another month. Babies don't care about schedules. Another pain ripped through her. Get Josie, please. Samuel hesitated, clearly torn between going for help and staying with her. Go, Clara said through gritted teeth. I'll be fine. Just go. He ran. Clara had never seen him move so fast. She heard Thunder's hooves pounding away as she made her way slowly, painfully back to the cabin. The next hours were a blur of pain and fear and desperate waiting. Clara lay in their bed, her hands fisted in the sheets, counting the minutes between contractions and praying that Josie would arrive in time. She heard hoofbeats, voices, the door slamming open. I'm here, child. Josie's face appeared above her, calm and steady. I'm here. You're going to be fine. The baby is eager to meet the world. That's all. Josie was already examining her, her hands gentle but sure. You're doing beautifully, Clara. Just breathe. Samuel burst in behind her. Is the baby out? Josie pointed at the door. This is woman's work. Go pace somewhere else. I'm not leaving her. Samuel. Clara's voice was strained but firm. Go, please. I need to focus. He looked at her with such fear, such love, that Clara felt tears prick her eyes. I'll be right outside, he said. I'm not going anywhere. I know. Clara managed a weak smile. I love you. I love you too." Then he was gone, and Josie was talking, her voice a steady stream of instructions and encouragement. "Push when I tell you. Breathe when I tell you. This baby wants out, and we're going to help it." It was unlike anything Clara had ever experienced. Worse than anything Ezra had done to her. Worse than anything she could have imagined. But there was something different about this pain. It had purpose. It had meaning. It was bringing life into the world, not taking it away. "Push, Clara. Push now." Clara pushed, screamed, pushed again. "I can see the head. You're almost there. One more push." Clara gathered everything she had left and pushed with all her strength. And then suddenly, miraculously, there was crying. A thin, reedy wail that was the most beautiful sound Clara had ever heard. "A girl." Josie's voice was thick with emotion. "A healthy, beautiful girl." Clara sobbed, her arms reaching. "Let me see her, please." Josie placed the baby on Clara's chest. She was tiny and red and perfect, her eyes squeezed shut, her little fists waving in the air. "Hello?" Clara whispered. "Hello, my love." The baby quieted at the sound of her voice, her eyes opening just a crack. They were gray, storm gray, Samuel's eyes. "She's beautiful." Clara couldn't stop the tears streaming down her face. "She's so beautiful." "What's her name?" Josie asked softly. Clara didn't hesitate. "Grace. Her name is Grace." "Grace Garrett," Josie smiled. "That's a good name." Samuel came in then, unable to stay away any longer. He stopped in the doorway, his face frozen in an expression Clara couldn't read. "Samuel." Clara held out her hand. "Come meet your daughter." He crossed the room slowly, like he was afraid sudden movement might shatter the moment. When he reached the bed, he sank to his knees, his eyes fixed on the tiny bundle in Clara's arms. "She's real," he breathed. "She's actually real." "She's real." Clara shifted Grace toward him. "Do you want to hold her?" Samuel's hands were shaking as he took his daughter. He cradled her against his chest, so careful, so gentle, like he was holding something made of glass. "Hello, Grace." His voice cracked. "I'm your daddy." Grace yawned and snuggled closer to him. Samuel laughed a broken, wonderful sound. "She's not impressed." "She will be." Clara reached up to touch his face. "She'll be the most loved little girl in all of Wyoming. In all the world." Samuel looked at her, his gray eyes wet. "Thank you. Thank you for this, for her, for everything. Thank you for not leaving me in that yard." Clara smiled. "Best decision you ever made. Best decision anyone ever made." Josie cleared her throat. "As much as I hate to interrupt, Mama needs rest and baby needs feeding. Samuel out." "But, out? You can come back in an hour." Samuel reluctantly handed Grace back to Clara. "I'll be right outside." "I know." Clara kissed his cheek. "I know." The first weeks with Grace were exhausting and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Clara had never cared for a baby before, never changed a diaper or mixed formula, or soothed a crying infant at 3 a.m. But somehow instinctively, she knew what to do. "You're a natural," Samuel said one evening watching Clara rock Grace to sleep. "I'm making it up as I go." "Isn't everyone—" Samuel moved to stand behind her, his arms wrapping around them both. "You're doing beautifully." Grace made a soft sound, her tiny fingers curling around Clara's thumb. "She's got you wrapped around her finger," Clara observed. "Completely." Samuel didn't sound bothered by this. "Both of you do." "Good." Clara leaned back against him. "That's exactly where I want you." Winter came early that year. The first snow fell before Grace was a month old, covering the world in white silence. Clara stood at the window watching the flakes drift down her daughter warm against her chest. "Your first snow," she murmured. "Not that you'll remember it." Grace gurgled contentedly, her gray eyes tracking the movement outside the window. "When I was your age," Clara continued, My mother used to hold me just like this, watch the snow with me, tell me stories about winter queens and ice castles. What happened to her? Samuel asked quietly. He'd come up behind her so silently she hadn't heard. Fever. Same as my father. Clara's voice was soft but steady. They died within 2 weeks of each other. I was 14. I'm sorry. Don't be. Clara turned to face him. They loved me, really loved me. I had 14 years of that. Some people never get any. Grace is going to have a lifetime of it. Yes. Clara looked down at her daughter. She is. That night Samuel found Clara crying in their room. What's wrong? He was beside her in an instant. Is it Grace? Is she? She's fine. She's perfect. Clara wiped her eyes. That's why I'm crying. I don't understand. I never thought I'd have this. Clara's voice broke. A husband who loves me. A healthy baby. A home. After everything Ezra did, I thought I was broken, ruined, that I'd never deserve anything good. Clara. But I was wrong. She looked up at him. I was wrong and you showed me. You showed me I was worth more than I believed. Worth more than how I'd been treated. Samuel cupped her face in his hands. You're worth more than gold, Clara Garrett. More than this ranch, more than every horse in Wyoming. You're worth everything. Clara kissed him soft and deep. I love you. I love you too. Samuel rested his forehead against hers. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. Don't be scared. Clara smiled through her tears. We've survived everything else. We'll survive this too. Spring brought new life to the ranch. Hope, the filly they'd named almost a year ago, was growing into a beautiful young mare. Ruby had another foal, a colt this time, whom Grace seemed absolutely fascinated by. Da, she said, pointing at the colt with her chubby finger. Da. That's a horse, sweetheart, Samuel corrected. Can you say horse? Da. Clara laughed. Close enough. Grace was walking now, toddling around the cabin on unsteady legs, getting into everything she could reach. Samuel had baby-proofed obsessively, but Grace seemed determined to find danger wherever she could. She's fearless, Josie observed during one of her visits. Gets that from her mother. I'm not fearless, Clara protested. Child, you stood up to an armed man who'd been hurting you for 7 years. That's the definition of fearless. That was different. How? Clara considered. I was scared. Terrified, actually. And you did it anyway. Josie smiled. That's what courage is. Not the absence of fear. The decision to act despite it. Grace chose that moment to make a break for the fireplace. Clara caught her just in time. No, baby. Hot. Hot. Grace's lower lip trembled. Then she spotted something else interesting and was off again, the near disaster forgotten. She's going to be a handful, Josie predicted. She already is. But Clara was smiling. The best kind of handful. Summer came, and with it, a letter. Samuel brought it back from town, his expression troubled. It's for you. Clara looked at the handwriting. She didn't recognize it. Who's it from? Return address says Kansas. That mean anything to you? Clara's heart skipped. My mother's family. She had a sister there. We lost touch after the fever. She opened the letter with trembling hands. Dear Clara, I hope this letter finds you well. You probably don't remember me. I'm your Aunt Ruth, your mother's younger sister. I've been trying to find you for years. I heard about your uncle's death. I won't pretend to mourn him. I never liked Ezra. And I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from him after your parents passed. By the time I realized what was happening, you'd disappeared. I've recently learned that you're married now and living in Wyoming. I wanted to reach out, to tell you that you have family who loves you, who wants to know you. If you're willing, I'd like to correspond. Perhaps even visit someday. But only if you want. with love and hope. Aunt Ruth Clara read the letter twice, then a third time. Tears were streaming down her face. Clara. Samuel touched her arm. What is it? Family. Clara looked up at him. I have family. Real family. She wrote back that night. Dear Aunt Ruth, I remember you. I remember your laugh and your cookies and the way you called me little bird. I've thought about you so often over the years. Yes, I'm married to a wonderful man named Samuel. We have a daughter, Grace. She's almost 8 months old and the joy of our lives. I would love to correspond. I would love for you to visit. I would love to have family again. With all my heart, Clara. The letters came regularly after that. Ruth wrote about her life in Kansas, her husband and children, her memories of Clara's mother. Clara wrote back about Wyoming, about Samuel and Grace, about the life she was building. She sounds lovely, Samuel said after reading one of Ruth's letters. She was always kind, even when I was small and annoying. Clara smiled at the memory. She used to sneak me extra dessert when my mother wasn't looking. Think she'll actually visit? I hope so. Clara folded the letter carefully. I want Grace to have an aunt, to know she has family beyond us. She has Josie. Josie is wonderful, but she's not blood. Clara hesitated. Does that matter to you, blood family? Samuel was quiet for a moment. Martha's parents disowned her when she married me, said I wasn't good enough for their daughter. I haven't spoken to my own family in 15 years. Do you regret that? Some days. Other days, I think family is what you make it, not what you're born into. He took Clara's hand. You, me, Grace, Josie, we're family. That's what matters. Clara squeezed his fingers. We are. But having more people to love us, to love Grace, that can only be good, right? Right. Samuel kissed her forehead. Invite your aunt to visit. The more the merrier. Ruth arrived in September, just after Grace's first birthday. Clara barely recognized her. The young aunt she remembered had aged gray, streaking her dark hairlines, creasing her face. But her smile was the same. Warm and bright, and full of love. Little bird. Ruth gathered Clara into her arms. Look at you. All grown up and beautiful. Clara cried. She couldn't help it. 7 years of loneliness, of believing she had no one, dissolved in her aunt's embrace. I'm sorry, Ruth whispered. I'm so sorry I didn't find you sooner. You found me now? Clara pulled back, wiping her eyes. That's what matters. Ruth stayed for 2 weeks. She helped with Grace, traded recipes with Clara, charmed Samuel with stories of Clara's mother as a young woman. You look just like her, Ruth told Clara one evening. Same eyes, same smile. She'd be so proud of you. You think so? I know so. Ruth took her hand. She always said you were destined for great things. I think she was right. I haven't done anything great. I just survived. That's the greatest thing of all. Ruth's eyes were fierce. After everything you went through, you're here, happy, whole, with a family who loves you. That's a triumph, Clara. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. When Ruth left, she made Clara promise to visit Kansas. Grace should meet her cousins, and I want to show you where your mother grew up. We'll come, Clara promised. Next summer, maybe, when Grace is old enough to travel. I'll hold you to that. Ruth hugged her tight. I love you, little bird. Always have. Always will. I love you too, Aunt Ruth. Clara watched her aunt's stagecoach disappear down the road and felt something settle in her chest. Not sadness, but completion. Another piece of her broken past healed. Fall passed. Winter came again. Grace was walking confidently, now running. Sometimes her gray eyes bright with curiosity and mischief. She said her first real words, Mama Dada Horsey no, and demonstrated a stubborn streak that Josie said came directly from Clara. I was never this stubborn, Clara protested. Child, you survived Ezra Holden through sheer stubbornness. Don't tell me you don't have it in you. Clara couldn't argue with that. Christmas that year was magical. Samuel cut down a small pine tree and brought it inside, decorating it with ribbons and dried berries. Clara made cookies from her mother's recipe, the smell filling the cabin with memories and warmth. Grace was too young to understand, but she squealed with delight at the presents more interested in the paper than the toys inside. She's perfect, Samuel said, watching their daughter destroy wrapping paper with gleeful abandon. She is. Clara leaned against him. Everything is. Careful. That sounds dangerously close to contentment. Is that bad? No. Samuel's arm tightened around her. It's wonderful. I just never thought I'd feel it again. Me neither. Clara looked up at him. But here we are. Here we are. He kissed her soft and sweet, while Grace babbled happily, and the fire crackled and snow fell gently outside the window. 2 years passed. Grace grew from a baby into a little girl, fierce and funny and absolutely fearless. She inherited Clara's love of horses and Samuel's quiet strength, and she had both of them wrapped around her tiny finger. More story, Mama, she demanded every night. More. Clara would tell her about winter queens and ice castles, about brave princesses who saved themselves, about families who found each other against all odds. Is that story about you, Mama? Grace asked one night, her gray eyes too perceptive for a child her age. Clara hesitated. What makes you think that the princess had a mean uncle and a nice cowboy saved her? Clara smiled. It's a little about me, and a little about Daddy, and a lot about hope. Like my horse, like your horse, and like you. Clara kissed her forehead. You're my hope, Grace, my greatest hope. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby, more than all the stars. The next spring, Clara discovered she was pregnant again. Twins, Josie announced after examination. Heaven help us all. Samuel went pale. Twins? 2 babies, Samuel. That's what twins means. Clara laughed at his expression. Don't worry, we'll manage. Manage, Clara, we barely survived one. How are we supposed to? Together. Clara took his hand. The same way we've done everything else. Together. The twins arrived in November. 2 boys identical and screaming with their father's dark hair and their mother's determination. Thomas, Samuel said, holding one of them. His eyes were wet. I want to name this one Thomas. Clara understood. And the other, James, for your father. Clara's throat tightened. Thomas and James Garrett. I like that. Tommy and Jamie for short. Samuel looked at her. Is that okay? It's perfect. Grace was initially skeptical of her brothers. They're loud, she complained, and they smell. You were loud and smelly once too, Clara told her. Was not. Were too. Clara gathered her daughter onto her lap. But you know what, I loved you anyway. Just like I love Tommy and Jamie. Just like I love you more than anything. Grace considered this. More than horses. More than all the horses in Wyoming. Okay. Grace nodded seriously. I guess they can stay. Years passed. The children grew. The ranch prospered. Samuel's horses gained a reputation across 3 territories, and buyers came from as far as California to purchase his stock. Clara learned to read properly, devouring every book she could find. She started teaching Grace, and then the boys, passing on the gift that had been denied her for so long. Josie remained a fixture in their lives, growing older, but no less sharp. When she died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 73, the whole town mourned. She was my first friend here, Clara said at the funeral, holding Samuel's hand. She showed me I wasn't alone. She loved you, Samuel said. Loved all of us. I know. Clara wiped her eyes. I just wish I'd told her more often. Ruth visited every summer, bringing her children and eventually her grandchildren. The Kansas and Wyoming branches of the family became intertwined, united by blood and love and the fierce determination to never lose each other again. Clara wrote letters constantly. To Ruth, to friends she'd made in town, to the children when they went away to school. Words that had once been denied her now flowed freely, a river of connection and love. "You're always writing," Samuel observed one evening. "I have a lot to say." Clara set down her pen. "And a lot of people to say it to. Any of those letters about me?" "All of them are about you." Clara smiled. "You're my favorite subject." Flatterer. Truth-teller. She crossed to him, settling into his lap like she had 1,000 times before. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Samuel Garrett." "I thought that was Grace." "Grace is the second best thing. The boys are third." "Where do the horses rank, sir?" "Fourth." "I'll take it." Samuel kissed her long and deep. "I love you, Clara." "I love you too. Always have. Always will." 20 years after Clara arrived at Garrett's Rest, she stood on the porch watching her grandchildren play in the yard. Grace was married now to a good man who reminded Clara of Samuel. The twins had gone east for education, but came home every chance they got. The ranch had grown, prospered, become something real and lasting. "What are you thinking about?" Samuel asked, coming to stand beside her. "Everything." Clara leaned into him. "Nothing. Just grateful, I suppose." "For what?" "For you. For this." She gestured at the children, the horses, the home they'd built. "For every single day since you found me in that yard." Samuel's arm wrapped around her. He was older now, his hair more silver than dark, his face lined with years of sun and wind. But his eyes were the same, storm gray, full of love. "I didn't find you," he said. "You found me. Saved me from drowning in my own grief." "We saved each other." "We did." He kissed the top of her head. "Best bargain I ever made." Clara laughed. "You always say that." "Because it's always true." One of the grandchildren, Grace's oldest, a girl, with Clara's dark hair and Samuel's gray eyes, came running up to the porch. "Grandma, Grandpa, come see. There's a new foal." Clara and Samuel exchanged glances. "Duty calls," he said. "It always does." They walked together toward the barn, hands clasped, surrounded by the life they'd built. Clara thought about the girl she'd been. 21 years old, sold for a horse believing she was worthless. She wished she could go back and tell that girl what was coming, that safety was possible, that love was real, that she was worth so much more than she'd ever imagined. But maybe that was the point. Maybe you had to walk through the darkness to appreciate the light. Maybe you had to be broken before you could understand what it meant to be whole. "You're thinking deep thoughts again," Samuel said. "Always." "Share." Clara squeezed his hand. "I was thinking about how far we've come, from that first day in the snow to this. All the pain, all the fear, all the healing. Every single moment led us here. Any regrets?" "Not one." Clara stopped walking, turning to face him. "You gave me my life back, Samuel. Gave me a choice when I'd forgotten I deserved one. I'll spend the rest of my days thanking God for that horse." "The horse that bought you." "The horse that set me free." Samuel smiled, that rare, beautiful smile that still made her heart skip after all these years. "You set yourself free," he said. "I just opened the door. And I walked through." Clara rose on her toes to kiss him. "Best decision I ever made." They continued to the barn where their grandchildren waited, and new life was being born, and the future stretched out before them, bright and full of possibility. Clara May Holden had been sold for a horse at 21, but she had become something money could never buy. A wife, a mother, a grandmother, a woman who knew her worth. She had been treated like property, but she had proven herself priceless. She had been broken, but she had healed stronger than before. And in the end, the girl who was traded like livestock became the woman who was cherished like gold. Not because someone told her she was valuable, but because she finally believed it herself. That was her victory. That was her triumph. That was her story. And it was worth more than any horse, any ranch, any fortune. It was worth everything.